Hey guys, Coach Alex from FastFitnessTips here. I'm here to talk about e-bikes today, and it was a while ago since I looked at e-bikes. I actually talked about them back in 2017, but my God, have things changed? I mean, the landscape for e-bikes is changing unbelievably. Things are really moving on, and basically it's hard to keep up. When I last looked at e-bikes in 2017, to be honest, they were kind of a tiny niche. I remember when I used to go to the bike shows and they were just like hidden in the corner. Now they've taken over like more than half of the show. It's a bit like when I was a kid. I went into Tower Records and, there were a few CDs down one rack and a sea of vinyl. And then vinyl disappeared. And then CDs disappeared. Oh yeah, and then Tower Records itself disappeared. Now you're probably a hardcore roadie who would never contemplate riding an e-bike because it's like such a massive cheat. And totally, I respect you. I'm wanting to be that too. There's no doubt if you ride a regular manual road bike, mountain, cross or road or cyclocross, whatever your choice of bike, the point is, if you're riding the old-fashioned way, you're getting the best workout known to man. It's definitely much, much easier to ride an e-bike, but should that mean nobody should ride it? Should that mean that it's not accessible, or do they have a place? Well, come on guys, it's 2020. Boy, do they have a place. You want to hear some of these stats on sales. I mean, soon it's going to be the case if you're riding a manual old-fashioned bike with your own engine, i.e. your own physiology as the power. You're going to be like one of those film photographers that, died out in the early 2000s, is taken over by a better technology. Now, nothing beats the human body. I'm not saying that. But e-bikes make cycling accessible to a vast number of people who wouldn't otherwise have contemplated it. It's like that new technology, like that digital SLR has come along and killed off that film technology. Once upon a time, everyone used to know what shutter speed, ISO, and aperture was. Now no one knows. They just press the button on their smartphone and it does the job. But as the smartphone outsmarted the old digital SLR or film? No. Those were gold standards that would never be overtaken. But the smartphone makes photography accessible to millions and millions of people. Yeah, sure, most take relatively low quality pictures without attending to the fundamentals like lighting, stabilization, using a tripod. But heck, does it matter all the time? Because everyone always has the smartphone available. Okay, so why am I telling you all this, guys? Well, the truth is I'm after an e-bike today and I want to find an e-bike that will be good for me, and I want it to supplement my regular cycling. I don't want it to take over my road bike use, my commuting, or anything else I do. Yeah, and I do have like a good collection of bikes, as you probably know. I'm not going to get into that now, but I think there is a place for an e-bike for almost anyone. What kind of e-bike? I'm talking about e-mountain bike today because I think, I can do road pretty well. I can maintain my speed on the road in good conditions, with my own physiology. I'm happy with that. And I don't want to encroach upon that ability. I don't want to deteriorate because I suddenly switch, let's say, to an e-bike. So come with me on a quick journey today to try and find an e-bike that might be suitable for me. Now, when we're talking about e-bikes, we might as well start with who are they suitable for, because a lot of people say they don't get into cycling because it's too difficult. And I understand that. Remember that feeling you get when you haven't trained over the winter and you go back in the spring and those hills seem like mountains. That's the feeling that beginners get right at the start. In one survey, 20% of Londoners said they don't cycle because they're too old and unfit to do so. But come on guys, that is wrong because everyone can get healthier on a bike, but maybe they need a leg up, maybe they need a step up to make it more accessible. In this survey of Australians, you'll see that most people cycle for health and fitness or to get out in the fresh air, or because they have time in their hands, they want to get out, it's good for the environment, or they want to find out new places that it's good to ride. Sure, those are all good reasons, as well as commuting with your bike and frustration with, ICE, internal combustion engine type traffic. But the truth is, most people cycle only about a few miles a day. The average, I think, is that half of bike journeys are less than 3 miles, and 10% of people only cycle once a week. And yet multiple surveys have shown that if people actually buy an e-bike, and I'm not saying they must, but if they do, then their cycling increases. Like one study in Norway said their cycling on an e-bike went up from 28% cycling to 48% days of cycling after they bought their e-bike, which is cool. So what does this mean in terms of sales? Now this is mind-blowing. Because when I looked at this in 2017, I might as well say e-bikes were kind of a niche. Only 1% of all bike sales in the US were e-bikes prior to 2012. And what's happened now is the number of e-bikes has just gone up and up. These are millions of e-bikes sold over Europe. And you can see this is on a massive upward trend. Take Germany. Germany is kind of, wow, it's a spectacular example. Unfortunately, the number of regular bikes is going down. So as a percentage, the old-fashioned regular, let's call it non-e-bike, is actually in decline. But e-bikes are in a massive ascendancy, such that they now represent, wait for it guys, more than 50%, I can't believe this, more than 50% of bikes sold in Germany, in Belgium, in the Netherlands are e-bikes. Last year, Germany sold 1.36 million e-bikes. And there's around 5 million e-bikes on the road in Germany right now. So in Europe, e-bikes are exploding. And yes, guys, even in the States, although you guys are lagging behind somewhat, you're also catching up now. Last year, 400,000 e-bikes were sold in the US. And it's an increase of nearly 100% year on year. It's just spectacular. Now, I'm not saying I'm particularly happy about these stats. I'm just saying these facts are a fact of life. Take it or leave it. The point is, the biggest trend in cycling in terms of sales is e-bikes worldwide. That is the end of the story. You might as well get on board with it and say, is there a reason for that? Is there a niche for that? And who are e-bikes for? Well, yeah, we used to say, okay, the percentage of people who are over 65 who are buying e-bikes is high. It's about 2/3 of people buying e-bikes are older people. I've got no problem with that. It's great that older people are getting out and getting healthy. I guess the big question there is, can you get fit and healthy on an e-bike? So let's come back to that at the end of this video. But first, let me tell you about my search for an e-bike. Okay, well, I have to admit, I like sleek, well-designed, lightweight, good machines that look like they can do the business. And the problem I have with these mountain bikes is that basically they're quite porky. They're quite heavy. I mean, where's this table in this really nice review? Here it is. Look at these classic e-bikes. Now, okay, they're full suspension e-mountain bikes with a variety of motors like Shimano steps, Bosch Performance. The price is not cheap. We're talking about 6, 8, 10,000 euros or dollars. But here's what puts me off, guys. The weight is in the like 20 kilogram range. I don't think this is necessary for an e-bike. I think you can go for a much sleeker, more modern product. And I've been waiting for that to come along. I don't want to be riding a super heavy, super sluggish machine which only speeds up when you put the battery on. I want it to handle well in all occasions. So I did come across this one. This is my first choice. It's the Focus Raven Squared 9.8 or 9.7, depending on the model you go. Now the price isn't as bad as those other ones we just looked at. It's like a 2019, 2020 model. And here's what I really like about it. The weight of the high-end bike in that version is only 14 kilos. And that is 10 kilos if you take the battery out. Check this out, guys. Okay, so cool. I checked out the Focus Raven Squared and it's an awesome bike, no doubt. Cutting edge technology, very light, but I didn't really want the front suspension because I was going to be running, believe it or not, mostly on-road and gentle off-road, not crazy off-road. I already have a full suspension mountain bike and I felt the price was a little bit high for this one and it's hard to get, a discounted price. So the bike that I'm leaning towards is this one by Ghost. Now, Ghost do a whole range of e-bikes, but actually it's this one from 2018 that I really liked. It's called the Ghost Hybrid Lector 5.7 LC. It's a hardtail with no suspension at the front, but the forks are, like super heavy duty for sure. It's got the Shimano step system in there, the EC8000 series, which is pretty decent in terms of power. It's got a decent battery life as well. The whole system is Shimano SLX, and what I really like is they try and keep the weight down with the carbon frame. Obviously you can detach the battery and charge it or even ride without it, and that's cool. And the key thing is the weight. The weight comes in out of the box around 17 kilos, which is pretty good. And you can lighten that up, as I'm already doing, by doing a few DIY upgrades, which is pretty cool. So okay, these are my first days as an e-bike rider. Yeah, I trialed it myself out in Tenerife with the help of awesome EC Rider bikes. Check those guys out. Ask for Marcus and he'll set you up with an awesome tour in Tenerife of El Teide, i.e. the volcano. That's an amazing day out and well worth the price. But what I'm trying to say here is e-bikes are fun. They make life easy. And my initial impression is, if anything, they make life a little bit too easy. It does feel like cheating. It's a bit like when I was doing training after a hard ride, I would go and rehab on the spin bike. Well, it's a bit like riding the spin bike all the time, but you're outdoors. Now, there are some limitations of e-bikes. I'm going to say one of them is speed because, internationally, we haven't got our standards sorted out regarding speed. In Europe, we're locked down. Yeah, it's coronavirus, but we're actually locked down in terms of e-bike speed to 25 kph, and that's frustrating. Yeah, you might go 25 kph uphill, but on the flat or downhill, unless you buy some kind of de-restriction device or do it yourself, and to be honest, it's not that difficult, you will find the speed issue frustrating. In America and other parts of the world, they've got different e-bike classes. I'm not claiming to be an expert on them all, but I know that some of those headline speed figures out of the box are 20 miles an hour or 32 kph, and or class 3, 28 miles an hour or 45 kph. Now, I would admit that if your e-bike is going out of the box at 28 miles an hour, 45 kph, uphill, on the level, downhill, on the trail, you could easily get into trouble, i.e. could get pretty sketchy pretty quickly. And I think this is a problem waiting to happen, i.e. there is a risk I've found on e-bikes, not just the one I mentioned earlier of getting stranded, but basically going too fast, out of control. Going back to what I said earlier, a lot of people are either novices or, let's say, elderly, or they're coming back to cycling. Their bike handling skills aren't that good. Their road awareness isn't that good, but yet they're getting a vehicle basically that goes faster than that they can naturally control. I think that could be a problem, guys, and it's a problem brewing. It's a problem waiting to happen, and I don't really know the answer to that, to be honest. Because on one side, yeah, I want bikes to be as fast as possible, as fun as possible, and if you can ride safely and with skills, you don't need to worry about the maximum speed on your bike too much. But if you're a novice and your bike handling skills are relatively poor, then you do. Okay, let me return to what I promised you at the beginning, which is this question of can you get fit on the e-bike? Well, I got a very simple answer to this, guys, which is this. If you are currently unfit, relatively sedentary, you spend a lot of time, not exercising, you find it hard to get up and do something, then by investing in an e-bike and getting out, getting fresh air, then you will be getting fitter because your baseline was low. I'm sorry, that's the way it works. That, you're going to take one step up by using the e-bike, even though it's assisted. you're going to start getting healthier and fitter on the e-bike. So I'm all for e-bikes lifting up people who need a lift. It's like couch to 5K. Everyone needs to start running somewhere. You don't start with a marathon, do you? You start with like a more simple, less strenuous form of exercise. However, if you are already fit, you are in training, you're doing, a structured training plan with a coach, you ride with your normal road bike or non-e-bike mountain bike or, cyclocross bike in season, off season, then you're not going to get fitter riding an e-bike. The times when you ride an e-bike are basically going to be a form of relaxation or maybe rehabilitation for you. So it depends where you're coming from in terms of, in quotes, are you going to get fit? I mean, my initial rides on the e-bike show that my average heart rate on the e-bike is around, 130, 140, which is really quite modest. It's not like my average on the non-e-bike, which is around 150, 160. So it's definitely much less. And even though these studies that have come out, like this paper here, Pedal Assist Mountain Bikes, a comparison of performance, perception, and beliefs shows that the heart rate is really, in the same ballpark. They say it's around 94% of average heart rate. Believe me, it's much easier on heart rate as a whole. And it's hard to really push yourself. This is another thing, psychologically. Think about this. Let's say you're on your regular bike, your regular road bike, you're doing a 40K loop. After 20, 30K, you might be thinking, oh, I've had enough now, but you've got to get home and there's no easy way to do it. So you basically ride back. That's the bottom line, isn't it? With an e-bike, unless something breaks, you can always press that button that gets you back quicker. Sometimes that's an advantage when you're completely shot. But oftentimes, in terms of training stimulus, that isn't the right way to go. But hey, what I'm trying to say in this whole video is that the whole landscape of e-bikes and bikes is basically changing under our feet. And I don't know if you're aware of that. 50% of bikes in Europe are going to be e-bikes that are sold right now. And that's on the ascendancy. So it's going to be more in the near future. It could be that regular non-e-bikes become a niche. Can you imagine that your hardtail, like non-e-bike mountain bike or your regular road bike becomes a rarity because people like you and I don't want to do the exercise anymore. They want to hop on their e-bike and get an easy ride. But I'm not denigrating those riders. I'm saying there's a place for everyone. And that's what I want you to do today, guys. Keep your mind open. Now, for sure, guys, I'm going to tell you in the next few months how I get on with my e-bike, but I want you to tell me below what you think of e-bikes right now, whether you think they're still a kind of cheat or whether you think there's a place for them. And moreover, would you consider an e-bike for you? Do you think there's something an e-bike could bring to you? Okay, guys, this is Coach Alex from Fast Fitness Tips signing off. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about e-bikes today. For sure, have a look at our coaching site on Facebook or our Patreon site or maybe our Strava club. We've got over 1,200 members right now and you're very welcome to join. All right, have a great ride, guys. See you out there. Happy training. See you soon.